This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of Chakana Copper, Mr. David Kelley. Dave, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Gerardo. How are you doing?
I am well. You had some news today that had several layers to it that I want to work through. Let me start with the headline, which reads, Chakana reports 226 meters of 0.34 grams per ton gold, 0.36% copper, and 16.9 grams per ton silver, which equates to 1.11 grams per ton gold equivalent. These results are from the Paloma East target at the Soledad project in Peru. Interestingly, the mineralization starts just at 3 meters, so right at surface. Can you provide an overview, and then let's dig into the details a little bit more because there was a lot to get through.
Yeah, Gerardo, I couldn't be more excited with where we're at right now with Paloma East. You know, we've just put out 4 more holes in addition to the 3 we put out on September 17th, so that's 7 drill holes. Scout drilling, as we talked before, you know, we do these initial scout drilling programs to answer those 3 questions. Is it mineralized? Is there high grade? And do we have some sense about the shape? And you know, these 7 holes have done that for us. You know, it is a mineralized system. There is definite zones of high grade, and that's really exciting because we know we can track those high grade zones at depth, so that's going to increase. And then the size of the breccia has just really been spectacular. It's a much bigger breccia system that we had anticipated to begin with. Another point to make about today's release is that 226 meters, there was a very similar result in hole 135 on the September 17th release, but that was drilled from another platform in the opposite direction as hole 138, I believe it was. So, you know, we've got these 2 holes going in opposite directions having very similar long runs of good mineralization in gold and copper and some silver. And if you look at depth and measure the distance between the bottom of those 2 intercepts, you know, it's over 100 meters apart. So it's very significant, these results. There aren't a lot of drill results, but we know that as we keep drilling, you know, in a system like this, that there's variability in the grades, and we're going to see that variability come out. I know we're going to hit more high grade in these zones as well.
You mentioned something in the release that I don't think a lot of people are going to catch, and I know many will not catch the significance of it, and that's the evidence of proximity to an underlying intrusion. Can you speak to that a bit and the high concentrations of pyrite?
Yeah, it's really important to talk about hole 137. That's a drill hole that completely surprised us. I think as we spoke last time, we expected to be out of breccia at about 170 meters down hole, and we got to that point and it was still in breccia. And we have a golden rule on the project: if you're in breccia, you keep drilling. And we kept drilling and we kept drilling and we kept drilling, and we didn't get out of breccia until we got to 627 meters depth, which is about 530 meters below the surface and directly below the surface breccia mineralization at Paloma West. So it was a very significant hole geologically to expand the footprint of the breccia system that far. We have really good mineralization in the top 300 meters of that, including, you know, the mineralization we were just talking about, the 226 meters, 172 meters in the last release. That's all sitting at about, you know, consistently down to 200, and then we start losing control. But we've got good mineralization down to around 300 meters. That pyrite zone we hit it occurs at a very specific stratigraphic layer at depth, and we've seen this before. And we get really high concentrations of pyrite. There's two important points to make here. Oftentimes, pyrite sits above and further away from the copper zone, which the copper zone is often closer to the heat source. Okay, so this is what we call primary zonation, a very distinct zonation related to temperature. We fully expect to see that zonation as we go deeper, and in fact, we're starting to see the telltale signs of that, because the last 53 meters of the breccia had a tenfold increase in the molybdenum levels, all the way up to 0.14% molybdenum. That's very, very high molybdenum. And molybdenum is one of those elements that stays very close. It's associated with the higher temperature style mineralization. So that's the first indications that we've really seen. We've actually seen this in Breccia 6 as well, a very similar feature at depth, an increase in molybdenum. So it's an important thing. The second point I would like to make, though, about the pyrite is a lot of the high-grade mineralization we've seen in the Soledad system has been related to pyrite being replaced by chalcopyrite, the copper-bearing sulfide mineral. And there's great photographs of that today in the news release. If you go back to the last figure and look at some of those figures or pictures, and I referred to two other news releases where we've seen that exact same thing at Breccia 5 at the same depth in the stratigraphic sequence in Breccia 6. So when we see lots of pyrite, I get excited because I know that that is one of the settings that you have where you can come in and get this late copper replacement that produces some really, really high, some of the most spectacular high-grade copper zones we've seen, and it's often with silver and with gold. So I get very excited. Even though we didn't hit high grades in that lower section, it's still very, very significant for the future potential in the Paloma area.
Let's talk about what's next, which is Paloma West and then Huancarama, right?
Yeah, so as you know, when you've got a drill rig on the property, it's costing you money, so you got to keep that thing busy. And so we finished these 7 holes and we went straight to Paloma West and we started drilling, and we've completed 11. I think we're right on the 12th hole. We're probably a hole or two away from finishing Paloma West, and then the rig will be moving over to Huancarama, and soon we'll be having results come out on Paloma West.
A lot to look forward to. I know the stock has seen some selling pressure here recently. Full disclosure, I'm biased. I've personally added to my position. Do you want to speak to that, or is that something that in the mid to long term doesn't really affect the approach to drilling when you have these kinds of results? And we're not even in what I know the company internally believes is the most prospective part of the complex, which is Huancarama, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think there's just a lot of nervous investors out there right now. Certainly, we've got the U.S. elections coming up. There's a lot of uncertainty about the outcome of that. There's been, the effect of COVID-19. There's just a lot of people, I think, that are a little bit jittery. Copper price is still hanging in there above $3. There's been a little bit of pullback in gold and silver, but they're still really strong, especially when you consider that we've got a high grade deposit like we're dealing with at Soledad. So I'm not concerned about it long term. Obviously, I'd love to see us. I do think we're grossly undervalued because we're in a discovery. A lot of the juniors out there that are trying to, they have a higher market cap and they're simply trying to find something. We've already found it. So, it's a great time. It's a great opportunity for people to come in. You can invest right now at the same price point that Gold Fields put $8 million into the company a year ago, more than a year ago, after doing extensive due diligence. And they're thrilled with the results. So, I mean, there's really no better time to add to a position or even start a position in my mind right now.
An important point to make is that this drill program is fully funded, correct?
Yeah, it's fully funded, and we're right at about 3,400 meters all up since we started out of the 15,000 meters. So we've got a long way to go, Gerardo. It's so exciting, to be. This is for a geologist. This is what you dream of. You want to get into these situations where not only have you made a discovery with huge upside potential, but you've got the money in the bank, you've got the drill rig on the property, and you got a super high performing exploration team in Peru making it all happen. So, I couldn't be more excited. We're going to have a lot of one-on-one calls in the next several months, Gerardo, because we're going to keep doing what we do best, which is find high grade at Soledad and then come on the air with you and talk about it.
Looking forward to it, Dave. Thank you so much for your time today. Exciting times.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gerardo. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.